I'm going to talk about fingernails, or fake fingernails, or artificial fingernails. These are for people who play musical instruments where they do finger picking or classical style, guitar, ukulele, banjo if you don't use picks, and anything really, where you want a combination of your fingertip, the pad, and a combination of the nail itself. Now, I found these online years ago, designed for classical guitar players. These are from guitarplayersnails.com, all one word, guitarplayersnails.com. And these come in little packs of 50, or you can buy them singly. They run about a quarter a piece. I like the 1832, but there's also a 1932. It's a little bit bigger that I can use. What these look like when you take them out of the package, and they're very thin. They're this shape. You have a pointed ends here. You can see the ends are pointed, and on this side it's just flat across the top. Now you can glue them on in that configuration and cut them. You can actually take the sharp end and put it on your nail and then slice it off, but I don't like those little points. They get caught on things. So what I do is I do a little trimming. So the first thing I do is take a pair of scissors. You need a pair of scissors and a fingernail file, some super glue, and I take this in and I round it off just a little bit, just enough so I can see that it's got a little bit of rounding. And in order to get that to be even, you take a file and you just come down to whichever side you want to make smaller, and do this until you get the basic shape that you want. Then when I get done with that, what I want to thin this bottom out a little bit so that when it sits down on my nail, it's not gonna catch. So I don't want that ridge there. So you take it and do it this way. You're gonna run up and down the nail thing like so, and you draw different levels of smoothness until you get to where you want to, and so you get a little bit thinner edge on the thing. You can see like so. Now, once you get that done, what you need to do is get your super glue out. You can use any kind of super glue you want. I like the stuff that's a little more like a gel. You put this on your finger, on your nail, not on your finger. You don't have to put it all the way to the ends of the nail, but you want to get enough on there that, you know, if you can see that or not. You want to get enough on this that you cover the nail about 3/4 of the way down. Okay. Once that's done, you take your nail. You have to put this on in such a way that you leave a little gap at the end. You don't want to go all the way to the end like so. You want to leave a little gap there. That's so the nail can breathe. I don't know how much breathing it does there, but that's what they say. You push it into place, press it in, and wait. And it can take a few seconds, but you can make sure that it's pressed in place. It doesn't matter if it's crooked or not on the end. Once you get it in place and it sets, the super glue will set within a few seconds. So then you have this. That's the thing. You see it's not straight coming off there because my fingers aren't straight. But what you do once you get this piece on and it's set in place, let me give it a few seconds to set. You take your scissors and you just go across the nail. And you leave about 1/4 inch there, and then you trim the ends of it so that it's the general shape that you want. You'll see how this gets there. So you're getting there. It's still too big. This is the size. This is as much nail as I want on my fingers. Maybe a 1/16 of an inch, maybe a little less than that. These two nails are okay. I don't have to do it. But these nails wear a lot faster when you're playing, especially if you're strumming rozzigato, which is a style you use a lot in ukulele, so make a sudden chunk sound. Anyway, you cut this down so that it's relatively short compared to what it started out as. And then from there, you take a file, a coarse file, and you file it into shape that you want. Now this takes a couple of minutes. You really don't want to go too far because then you have to start over again. But you don't want so much nail sticking out there that it catches all the string with the nail and not with the nail and the flesh combined. So as this goes down, I'll get it to the point where it's almost where I want it to be. You file the edges, and you file at a slight angle because you want the nail to be a little thin there so that it slides on the string when it pulls up and doesn't catch it and hold it. And you go through this way until you get to the point where you're pretty comfortable with what the length is. And you can tell by looking that it's just about there. Okay. Then you use a smaller file or a finer grade of a file to smooth it more. Right, so that's about as long as I want it. So at this point, I'm going to take the finer grades. These are marked in different things. You even out and you smooth the nail. You buff it and all that. So you even it out using. I'm using this color as orange because that's the way it is. You do this a while. And that's almost where I want it to be. You take the next layer and you smooth it some more. And so on until you get to the end. And then what you should have at the end is, having gone down through what is essentially relatively rough and then pretty smooth, you polish it. You then have a nail then looks like this. And you can see up close that it's not so different from these nails that it jumps right out, but it does look a little different. It's a little lighter. Now, you can also polish the top of the nail, the same sequence that you start out with the smoothing and evening it out. You then want it will polish to the point where it looks pretty smooth. You can polish all of these nails. You always start out with a clean, dry nail before you super glue anything on. So that now you can see that these nails are almost all the same size when it comes to signal. And I got one more to do here with this, which I will do and then show you how they all look together. All done. Ta-da!